The Niners get it done again. Brock Purdy was fantastic again. They just seemingly keep on rolling.
Brock
just a game manager through and through. Not impressive at all. Don't give him any credit. Don't give him any love. Well, Brock Purdy spoke after the game about who he would give the MVP to. Let's take a listen.
I think Christian should be MVP. I really do believe that. He does everything for us, runs the ball well, can catch the ball. He does everything. And so, in my eyes, that's an MVP. I'm the guy that hands him the ball off, and then I turn back and watch, sort of what he does, bouncing off guys, making cuts, twisting off guys when you got all these guys holding on to him. So I just see, the beating that he takes and just his grit to continue to drive his legs and get extra yards and inches, and then goes off to the sideline and he's immediately, using Theraguns and moving his body, he's just nonstop moving. We all respect it, man. He's the guy that does it all. And then we put him out in the slot and throw him a ball, and he just does everything. He's smart. And so, like I've said it before, man, we definitely, look up to him and his toughness, and he sets the standard, and we follow his lead.
So, listen, it's a great thought from Brock Purdy's being a great teammate, but there's a better chance Christian Okoye wins MVP this year than Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, my gosh. Come on. That's not true.
It's a quarterback award. Brock Purdy's going to win this thing.
But that is a problem, and I think Brock Purdy brings up a lot of good points. Do you guys know? So, obviously, McCaffrey's leading the league in rushing. He's averaging 5.3 yards an attempt. I mean, LaVar, think about if you went up against an offense where the running back's averaging that. They handle the ball twice, they get a first down. That's what you have to stop every time.
Yep.
I look at him. He's leading the league in scrimmage yards. He's on pace to be top 25 in a single season in NFL history, which he'd put himself amongst only two other players who've done that. All right, if he keeps this pace, which he's averaging 129 yards, scrimmage yards a game. He did it in 2019, and this will be the other season, 2023, if he can do it. The only other two players to ever do it, Marshall Faulk did it twice, in 1998, 1999, and he actually went for 2,100 scrimmage yards in 2000 as well. But that's outside the top 25. And then LT. LT did it in 2003 and 2006, as far as this pace and being in the top 25 all time. So it's pretty rare company, what he's doing and what he's able to accomplish so far. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. If you look at his resume, he only has the one All-Pro season, and then he's got a couple. He'll have 3 Pro Bowls, and I think obviously he'd be an All-Pro this year. But he, to me, I think when healthy, you can make the case, there's no doubt about as a Hall of Famer. With the way he's played in his career, every single time it seems like he's been a Hall of Fame caliber player. It's only happened in 3 or 4 seasons, and that's my only concern for him moving forward is can he stay healthy for 17 games, or I guess even 16, depending on what Week 18 looks like for them, if he has to play the 17th game.
I mean, respect to McCaffrey. I mean, I ain't going to go as far as Hall of Fame just yet, but definitely his body of work is phenomenal.
Let's take a look at his Instagram. Give me a sec here.
Well, I mean, I give him Hall of Fame on that. He could get that today. Today.
Instant shot or whatever it is.
He has been a special player. I mean, make no mistake about it. There's only a few guys that can bring the skill set, multiple dimensional skill set that Christian McCaffrey brings to the table. And he clearly has been the difference maker for this team since they made the trade to get him. And he was that difference maker for Carolina when he was healthy for them. It's just always been a health deal with him. So, but as far as MVP of the league, sure, he should be in the conversation 100%. And I don't really feel as though any of these quarterbacks have just ran away with being the MVP of the league. I mean, I definitely think that what Lamar Jackson is doing is worthy of possibly getting it this year. For a moment in time, it looked as though you could have the conversation with Dak and with Jalen Hurts. But then you stop and you think, I mean, Brock Purdy and C.J. Stroud were probably the two that you should look at and say those are the main guys that should be looked at as MVPs. And I wouldn't listen. C.J. Stroud is out due to injury. That sucks. But in terms of what Brock Purdy is doing, it's MVP level performing. And whether you want to make it about being a game manager, he's a most valuable game managing player for this San Francisco 49ers team. So if it's not Lamar Jackson, I would say it's Brock Purdy. And if it's not Brock Purdy, then I think you have the conversation with McCaffrey.
It just feels like, the non-quarterback in the MVP conversation, the fallback as well, just give him Offensive Player of the Year.
And he'll get that. Yeah, he'll get that, certainly. And
he is the favorite now because it looked like that was Tyreek Hill's to lose, and then Tyreek Hill missed this past game, and so now the odds are saying, Christian McCaffrey is the favorite to get that one. But it is, and Brady's made this point, like, it just sort of is the obvious, well, the MVP is a quarterback award. It's like, okay, well, I mean, if that's where we're at, then they'll just go ahead and give him, Offensive Player of the Year, and then everybody goes home happy. But, Tyreek Hill not playing in that game yesterday looks like it did have an impact on the odds there. I mean, and what was the draft capital for Christian McCaffrey was what, a second, third, and fourth rounder? I believe. I think it was a second, third, and fourth rounder. They got I
do that 100 times out of 101.
It was a second, third, fourth rounder, and then a fifth round pick in 2024 that the Panthers got back in return for Christian McCaffrey. Like, man, that was a home run trade by Kyle Shanahan and company, and he's been fantastic ever since he's gotten there.
The other thing is, too, so he's 27 years old this year. They've got him under contract in what, like, if you're Christian McCaffrey, I don't know that even if you win Offensive Player of the Year, that you're doing a whole lot to change your contract outside of maybe restructuring to get more guarantees, because the running back position as a whole has taken a huge hit as far as how much these guys are being compensated. And he was one of the last ones to capitalize, getting a 4-year, $64 million deal, $21.5 million in signing bonus, and $30 million guaranteed at signing. And so he still has this year, 2024, and 2025 with some voidable years attached to that. But, he's in his late 20s, but that still gets him to 30, and they still have control, which I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. I'm sure he, enjoys playing in the system with Kyle Shanahan, and, they're obviously – he's got the most touches of anyone in the NFL. So clearly they're getting their money's worth out of him. But, as far as restructuring it and keeping him on the roster for relatively cheap, you'd have to think because the economics with the running back position, it's not going to be overly tough to do. And so all they need to do is convert a portion of this into some guarantees, which works for their cap structure, but also works for him because his dead cap hits the next couple of years aren't that bad. His cap hits in general around the $14 million mark, which as the salary cap continues to go up with Brock Purdy still on his rookie contract, like this all works out for the San Francisco team to be really good for the foreseeable future.
I got to ask a nerdy football question because I'm curious about that. I was thinking about it yesterday watching them play and seeing how they performed. So you guys have talked about offensively and defensively, whether Brady, you've talked about dialing it up in the passing game. LaVar, you've talked about, dialing it up defensively. What does it mean to dial it up from a running game standpoint? What does Kyle Shanahan do for McCaffrey that just leads to all the success they've had running the football with him?
To me, they find angles. So there's a few different things that they do. They use personnel, they use formations, and they use shifts and motions with all of that to get the exact look that they want from the defense. And if they get that exact look, they then know that if they just execute the blocking that they've prepared for and practiced and repped and walked through, they know they'll be able to succeed. I mean, you're going to get beat from time to time in those one-on-one matchups. But if you can get predictable looks where you have the angles, where you can get to edges, or you can create gaps, and you can create seams within the defense. I mean, one of the things that's most impressive about when you watch Christian McCaffrey, he averages 5.3 yards per carry, and I haven't – this is just my naked eye from watching tape, is he doesn't really get touched until he's a yard plus 2 yards downfield. It's very infrequently that you'll see him have guys who are penetrating and getting back behind the line of scrimmage. And so that, to me, is how I would define when you've got an offensive coordinator who's dialing it up. That's one of the things that I've been impressed by with Joe Brady and some of the different things they've done offensively with Aaron Kromer, the O-line coach in Buffalo, is it's finding ways of creating seams and getting to angles using pin and pull and other different blocking techniques to be able to find ways of creating some of those holes to get your running back up to the second level. Because that's the other thing is now, like if you look at so many defenses that play nickel as their base personnel, they've got smaller personnel out there. They don't have as many linebackers like LaVar out there who are waiting at that next level to get those hits or shed blocks. So as long as you get them to second level, and especially as everything is more spread out, there's a much greater chance of getting yards downfield, yards after contact, or making a guy miss in the open field.
Yeah, I would just add to that the whole idea of that zoning in terms of the blocking schemes that have worked so well for San Francisco is something that we saw for years in Denver. And Mike Shanahan was clearly the architect of or mastermind behind stressing defenses out by the way the offensive line, is able to move and quickly get positioned. And what Q just said, being able to reach block and being able to cut guys off. And, they've since relaxed chop blocking, but I mean, those guys were literally breaking legs in Denver during the heyday of running those zone style offenses. The key for a running back is what you saw out of the Terrell Davises, the Orlandis Garys, the Clinton Portises, and now you're seeing it with a Christian McCaffrey, is your pad level. Because when you're stretching and stressing a defense out up front with your blocking scheme, if you have a running back that has great pad level, it's hard to see him. But if that running back knows how to pace the defense well enough, they actually make it easier for the offensive guys to make their blocks because you're forcing the defense to have to commit. And so once you have that committing taking place, now it comes down to the vision and the movement that back has. And Christian McCaffrey is at the top of the list and guys that are able to find those gaps and be able to hit those gaps based off of the pacing of what the offensive line is doing. It's almost like a read option for a running back as well. If the defense is playing it slower and waiting for them to cut it back, then you go faster and you push it up in there to the outside. But if they fast flow you with the way that the backers are reading and the way the defensive linemen are trying to beat getting reached, then it ultimately sets up a natural cutback lane, and that running back really has an alleyway where he has to make one person miss. It may be a backside backer. It may be a safety. In some cases, not very often, but in some cases, it could be a defensive end that they just let free, and you just got to beat that defensive end, and then you get to the second level of the defense. So Kyle Shanahan has done an excellent job of kind of creating his iteration of what that original zone scheme blocking that took place in Denver, how that was, and you have players where you keep guys honest with those shifts, with those motions. You keep them honest because it's a Deebo Samuels. It's an Ayuk. Those guys can hurt you in sweeps. They can hurt you in screens. They can hurt you. And, oh, by the way, on one side of the ball, you do have a guy that can win one-on-ones with blocking. You do have a guy that's athletic enough to actually get off of one block and go downfield and get another block to free his guys up in Trent Williams. So they just got a ton of balance, and it's just been a masterful job in terms of what Kyle Shanahan has been able to do with that blocking scheme to give a guy like Christian McCaffrey those opportunities to showcase his skills the way that he does.
Yeah, they're fun to watch, man.